You know, they say that veterans for over 100 years have been trying to figure out the 1,000 mysteries behind using your GI Bill benefits for flight training. Or was it 1,000 years and 100 mysteries? Well, that, my friends, is just one of the mysteries. And let's get down on one of these mysteries today. And do you need your private pilot license to start using your GI Bill benefits for flight training? That's the question that we all want answered. So stay tuned and we'll figure it out.
Oh, what a stroke of luck.
If you are new to the channel, please comment, subscribe, like. It helps me out. It helps the channel out. I do a lot of videos on veterans readiness and employment. It's what I have done in the past because I was a part of the program and I saw that a lot of veterans were struggling with either getting approved or just finding more information about the program. But I'm starting to kind of shift to more doing things in the flight realm, more like flight specific, and just using your veteran benefits for flight, just because that's kind of what my life is right now. I'm going to a 141 degree program and working on my commercial license currently. So that's just what my life is right now. So the stuff that I learned, try to pass it on to other people. Now, one of the big things around using your post 9/11 for flight training a wall that you will find pretty quickly is whether or not you need a private pilot license to start using your post 9/11 for flight training. You know, whether or not you need that private pilot license first before the post 9/11 will basically kick in and start paying for your training. If you look up online, you'll probably find some resources that say you do, and you'll probably find some resources that say you don't. And it can be pretty confusing, and to cut through all that right now, both of those are technically correct. And that's why it can get confusing, because depending on which situation you are in and what you're looking to do, both of those scenarios are correct. You may need your private pilot license to start using post 9/11, and in another situation you may not. So let's look at the regulation. Specifically, it's going to be the 38 CFR 21.4235, and it's going to be programs of education that include flight training. So I encourage you to bookmark this one on your internet browser. It's going to be something that you can go back to kind of remind yourself of what actually the regulation is, so you don't have to go secondhand to other people. You can, what do they say, get it from the horse's mouth, whatever that saying means, wherever that came from. That would be an interesting one to go look at. There's all those Instagram accounts now that do old sayings and where they came from, but straight from the horse's mouth. I think it's something about their smile and how healthy they are. But anyways, I digress on that one, starting to just talk about horses. Okay, so starting from the top here, I'm just going to read through some of this regulation. Going to try to skip some of the hoopla and jargon. And here we'll start at A, where it says eligibility. An individual who is otherwise eligible to receive educational assistance under all of these chapters, or a reservist is eligible for education assistance under these chapters, may receive educational assistance for flight training in an approved program of education, provided that the individual meets the requirements of this paragraph alpha, except when enrolled in ground instructor certification course or when pursuing flight training under paragraph E of this section. The individual must. Number one, we see right here, you must possess a valid private pilot certificate or higher pilot certificate, such as a commercial pilot certificate. So here's where you may look online and you see some people say that you do need it. Yes, you do need your private pilot license to start using your GI Bill benefits for flight training. However, there is an exception, and that is found in paragraph E. So if we read up here again, it says, or when pursuing flight training under paragraph E. So let's go and see what paragraph E says. So we'll bring up paragraph E. Paragraph E says, flight training at an institution of higher learning. So let's see what this says. 1. An individual who is eligible for educational assistance under these chapters is exempt from provisions of paragraphs A. However, only 2 through C of this section, when his or her courses include flight training that is a part of a program of education that leads to a standard college degree. So this exempts us if we're going to a institution of higher learning, but this doesn't actually apply to the private pilot section, because this says paragraphs A 2 through C, and the private pilot requirement is actually in 1 of alpha, of paragraph alpha, so alpha 1. But if we go on down here to 2, the second bullet of echo, an individual described in paragraph E1 of this section may pursue courses that may result in the individual eventually receiving recreational pilot certification or private pilot certification, provided that the courses also lead to a standard college degree. So here's our exemption for that private pilot license. So we do not need a private pilot license if we're going into a institution of higher learning. So if that recreational pilot certificate, that private pilot license, will also lead to a standard college degree, then we do not need to have our private pilot license before we start using our benefits to pay for flight training. So you can go and find a 141 program that has a degree program, and if they have a private pilot course attached to that degree program, you can apply there, use your GI Bill benefits, your post 9/11 benefits to start training there, start doing flight training there, and your private pilot license will be paid for. The only way you actually need your private pilot license before you start using your post 9/11 benefits is if you do not go to a standard college degree course, or a course that grants a standard college degree along with the course that you're taking. And that right there is really what it comes down to. So if you do not want to get a degree and go through all the hoopla and the classes of, getting a degree, then you will need to get your private pilot license and pay out of pocket for that first before you can start using your post 9/11 benefits. And however, if you're fine with getting that degree, then you can go to a 141 degree granting program, and that private pilot license and beyond will all be paid for. Now, if you're smart and you don't want to get that degree, what you could do is you could start at a 141 degree granting program. You can go to that school, take a few classes, maybe classes that you have to take, and get your private pilot license there. Your benefits will pay for it at that school. Once you have your private pilot license, you can leave that 141 degree granting program, and you can go to just a regular old 141 flight training facility, and you can finish out the rest of your ratings there. That would be the way to do it, to still get your private pilot license paid for, but not do the entire bachelor's degree that the institution of higher learning would require. I hope this clears things up for you and sets you on a nice sunny path to success.